Welcome to TouchPoints TV. I'm Debbie House, Editor-in-Chief of Retail TouchPoints, and I'm here today with Alexander Rink, who's the CEO of 360PI. Welcome to you, Alex.
Thank you very much, Debbie.
Thanks for joining us at shop.org. How's the event going for you so far?
It's great. I'm really impressed with the number of people and the turnout. Especially after NRF in January, it just seems like it just keeps picking up, which is great. Obviously, after 2008, big downturn, I think there's a lingering sense of concern about the economy. So it's great to see increasing turnout at these events every year.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk about pricing today. Now we're gearing up. Hopefully, most retailers have geared up for their holiday season. I know some probably still aren't all the way there. But what would you say are some of the key pricing trends that you're seeing, across the board right now?
Yeah, I think there's a continuation of a bigger, longer, term trend around price transparency, and and price transparency really, I think, hit retailers pretty hard. To a certain extent, it's an evolution that's been started, since the internet and since Amazon first came out and popularized e-commerce, and there's been a growing wave of e-commerce. But I think, really a couple of seminal sort of junctures that really took it to another level included the launch of the iPhone in 2006, giving consumers the capability to view pricing in the palm of their hands immediately. And the second thing was actually a downturn in 2008, which all of a sudden made everyone much more price conscious than they had been. And so while price has always been a factor in people's purchase decisions, it became, I think, that much more of one. Now, again, as the economy improves, hopefully that's abated to some extent, but what hasn't gone away is this continuing trend towards price transparency. And I think the retailers are getting smarter. It really hit them hard for a little while, and I don't think they were completely expecting it, the degree to which it affected them. But I think they're getting smarter about it. And so I think overall, when we look at retail and the retailers we talk to, we see that there are some who are getting very smart or intelligent about pricing. There are some that are still a bit reactionary and really need to bring themselves up to speed in terms of capabilities and technologies to face the issue of price transparency.
So a couple of your customers are speaking at the event, Ace Hardware and Best Buy Canada, and they're going to be discussing dynamic pricing. Right? What are some of the insights that you can share into how retail technology is developing to accommodate and embrace dynamic pricing?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Again, with this theme of price transparency, what we're seeing is that more and more retailers are looking for automated solutions. And when I think about it in terms of other comparables or metaphors in the market, I think of autopilot systems, and where you used to have pilots who would fly planes and everything was done manually until you had autopilot systems being developed, because as good as they might be, there are always things that they couldn't catch as the system became more and more complex. Another example or metaphor that I think of is floor traders. And so used to be everyone traded on the floor, the stock exchanges, and then there were increasingly automated systems that were put into place. And so I think with pricing as a whole, and if you think about dynamic pricing, what we're seeing is this, again, trend towards more automation in pricing. I think a lot of people like to think that there's an art to it, and certainly there may be an art to it, but if we can have computers playing chess and beating Garry Kasparov, then it's hard to imagine that computers and sophisticated algorithms aren't going to do a better job processing the volume of data that retailers need to be cognizant of, with this price transparent world, and processing it and defining not only getting visibility on the market, but also giving recommendations on what their pricing should be, consistent with what their pricing strategy is. So essentially, I think what we're seeing across the board is more automation, more sophistication, more intelligence.
Do you think it'll end up being a balance of the art and the science, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that there are categories in retail that lend themselves more to the art and others that lend themselves more to the science. And I think they're consistent with where you see more price transparency. So for example, more of the hard goods or branded products that you can compare across retailers lend themselves, I think, more to the science. Whereas if you have a unique one-of product that you're the only one who creates, you can get a little bit more artsy about your pricing.
And on some level, I guess it's whether or not the retailers are actually going to follow through with the recommendations, right? So there's some compliance, I would guess, that takes part in the whole process as well.
Yeah, I mean, directly in response to our customers' requests, we were already giving them incredible visibility, and they said, step one, we just need to get visibility on the market. And so we addressed that pain, and with an incredible level of accuracy and reliability. But immediately the next pain was, wow, I have these volumes of data, how do I actually process it? And so again, we came up with a price recommendation engine. There are more sophisticated systems like price optimization systems. But with the price recommendation engine, it's really about putting in the rules that satisfy what your strategy is. And it really is just a recommendation. So at the end of the day, you can just review all the prices and say, check, I'm good with all these, automatically processed, or you can just flow them through automatically, or you can change them.
So you mentioned Amazon earlier, and I know that Amazon is on the minds of most retailers these days. What can retailers do? How can technology help traditional retailers compete with the likes of Amazon?
Yeah, again, another great question. I think that, and just, as evidence, I guess, of the fear and concern around Amazon, we were at a session at another trade show not too long ago, and it was about Amazon, or it was about pricing and Amazon and so on. And I mean, there were 10 questions from the audience, and half of them were about Amazon, which just goes to show the level of concern. And I think retailers are, looking at how can I compete against this juggernaut, in retail. And I think the answer is that you can absolutely compete. I mean, Amazon has done obviously a lot to open up the market. Obviously, their revenues are growing, and they increase their lead in terms of the market overall. But I mean, we know of at least a few different examples where retailers, when they make a decision or a choice that they're going to get increasingly aggressive and proactive about the market, that they can win against Amazon. So, for example, I think for Best Buy was pilloried in the press for a long time about its pricing, but over the course of the last year has shown really significant improvements, and the price perception of Best Buy in the market has significantly improved. And presumably underlying that is a increased sophistication of technology and looking at pricing. So I think there's one example. Another example is that Overstock very recently has launched a very public campaign against Amazon. And I mean, here's a company that a year and a half ago wasn't doing very well in the stock market. There were analysts who were literally writing up and saying this company's going to be insolvent. And yet their stock has gone up by a factor of 5 over the course of the last year or so. And the most recent campaign again has been about has been a salvo in the market against Amazon, really where Amazon's strongest, or where we traditionally think of Amazon as being strong, such as books, saying we're going to match or beat Amazon on book prices. I mean, who would have thought a year ago that a retailer would take it to Amazon in the market and achieve seemingly very good results? And we obviously don't have the inside information, but they're continuing the campaign, so that's obviously an indication that it seems to be working well. And and this from a retailer that everybody was writing off as an also-ran. So
gives all the other retailers some hope.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think the the inspiring message, hopefully, at the root of all this is you can absolutely compete against Amazon. You need to pick your spots, and you absolutely need to have technology on your side. I think if you're going to go against Amazon, with their technology and their sophistication, and you're going to try and do it, just sort of fudging your way along, or with manual effort or Excel spreadsheets, you don't stand a chance.
So finally, is it true that a lot of retailers consider pricing intelligence a zero-sum game? And what does your company do to help retailers avoid that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a sort of a common concern, is that price intelligence or visibility in the market is only used to match. It's only used for tactical purposes and to be the lowest price. But I don't think that's the case at all. The way I think of it, and it's not. The way I think of it is essentially it's like you're going into battle. You need a map. You need a map to know what you're going into. You need to know what the landscape is like. I mean, in one case, it's sort of you're going into battle and all you see is fog, and you can think about how effective that's going to be. You have no visibility. Or in the other case, you're going into battle and you've got the way clear before you. You can actually see the landscape clearly. Now, your strategy may differ, but what we can't escape is that retail is like a battlefield. I mean, there's a lot of competition, there's a lot happening, and it's better to work with visibility than with no visibility. Now, then you actually decide how you're going to use that visibility. You choose what's your plan of attack, you choose your strategy, you choose where you're going to approach and how you're going to approach. So it's not a zero-sum game at all. And I mean, even the most high-end retailers, high touch, high service, that offer their products at a much higher price point than other retailers, they just need to be able to right price their products. They still need to know what the pricing is of products out in the market so they can right price their products effectively.
All right, well, thanks so much for sharing your insights on pricing with us today. And thanks to all of you for joining us on TouchPoints TV. Have a great day.